Hello guys and welcome back. So in the previous video we have created these two parkour actions. Now in this video we will be performing these parkour actions according to the minimum and maximum height. So for that, open up the new parkour action script and write down below we will create a method in which we will check for the minimum and maximum height of the obstacle. Okay, so we will say public bool. Let's name this as check if available, and this method will need two parameters. So the first one will be obstacle info by the name of hit info, and then the transform of the player. So we will say transform and let's name this as player. That's it. Then add curly brackets, and in here we will create a float by the name of check height, and now we will check for the obstacle height. So how we will check that? We will simply minus the point y position by the player y position. For example, where the obstacle layer touches the the obstacle ray touches the obstacle. Okay, so from this position, okay, we will minus the y position of the player, and then in this way we will get the height. Okay, so let me tell you how we will do that. We will say hit info dot height info, okay, then dot point dot y, and this will be equals to, we will minus it, not equals to, so minus player dot position dot y. Okay, so in this way we will get the height. Then we will say that if the check height is less than minimum height, or if the check height is greater than maximum height, then what we will do, we will return false, else we will return true. Okay, so now we are checking for the height. Now what we want to do is we want to play parkour actions according to this height. Okay, but first of all we need to make this animation name public in order to access this anywhere. Okay, because we will be needing this animation name on our parkour controller script in order to play the animations. Okay, so let's make a property for this. So we will say public string animation name, and this will be equals to animation name. Okay, so make sure that you type this like this. Okay, animation name, right here the A will be capital, and then it will be equals to this string animation name. That is it. Now if we click on our parkour controller script, okay, right here, instead of now debugging that object found, now we will perform parkour when we found any object, or you can say obstacle. But first of all, at the top we need to create a boolean by the name of player in action. Okay, and then we need a reference to our animator, so we will say public animator. Let's name this as animator as well, and then right down below let's create a header first of all by the name of parkour action area, and in here we will create a list, and that list will be of type new parkour action. Okay, just like our script name, because that will be of that type. And let's name this as new parkour action, but make sure that the n right here is small, okay, or else it will give you an error. Then as you know that we will be performing parkour on our shift key. Okay, So what we need to do right here is add a if condition, and we will say input dot get button, and the button name is jump. Okay, then we will say and if the player is not in action. I will be telling you what this means, but let me first of all do this thing right here. Okay, now, so what this means, okay, it means that when we press the jump button, we also want to make sure that the player is not in action. It means that the player is not performing any other parkour, or the player is not doing anything. Okay, in that case we will then perform parkour. Now in here, as you know, that when we found any obstacle on which we can perform parkour, we type this message object founded, but now we don't want this. Now we want to perform a real parkour action. Okay, but first save the script. Okay, and get back to Unity, and then if you click on your player, you will find the animator reference right there at the animator reference, and then right here we have this list, okay, which we created right here. Okay, and inside this list we will be adding our two parkour actions. So we have these two parkour actions right here. If we actually lock that and then select these two parkour actions and then simply drag and drop it in there, and as you can see, both of them are added. Make sure that the jump up is at the top. Now let's unlock the inspector, click on player. So now as you can see in the list, we have these two parkour actions. Okay, and in the starting of this video we now have a code for checking the height. Okay, so now what we want to do is, according to the height, we will be picking the animation from this parkour action and then performing that parkour action. Okay, so for checking inside this list for the parkour actions, we need a for each loop. So we will say for each. Now for each action in the new parkour action collection. Okay, so new parkour action. In here we now want to check for the parkour action, so we will say if action dot check if available. Okay, this is this method check if available, and as you know that this check if available needs the hit info and the player transform. So for the hit info we will pass the hit data, and this hit data is coming from the environment checker. Okay, so now we pass the hit data in which our object information is stored, and then we want to pass the player transform. So for that we will just simply type transform, since our parkour controller script is stored on our player game object. Okay, so now when we pass these two things, now right here we want to perform parkour action. So for performing parkour action, after this update method, let's create a enumerator method by the name of perform parkour action. Okay, and this perform parkour action will require a new parkour action which will be by the name of action. Okay, we actually name this as action. This new parkour action is the type and this is the name. Okay, so this is actually a property of this perform parkour action. Okay, and the reason we did this is, as I told you, we will be having many parkour actions. Okay, so instead of hard coding and typing each of the parkour action name and the animation name again and again, we just created a parameter right here which is of type new parkour action, and as you know that on our new parkour action we have the animation name, the minimum height and maximum height already set up. Okay, so as I told you, we don't have to type the animation name and all the information about it again and again, okay, because that will make our code lengthy and hard to understand. Okay, so as I told you, in this method we will be performing parkour actions. So before performing the parkour action, we will make the player in action as true, because yes, the player is now in action performing a parkour. And then what we want to do is we will call the animator right here. We will say animator dot crossfade. Okay, and in here we will pass the animation name, that which animation we want to play. So we will just simply say action dot animation name, and then we will pass 0.2. Okay, this will be a delay in our animation, and then after that we will say yield return null. Okay, so now as I told you that we don't want our code to be lengthy. Okay, so now what this action dot animation name will do, it will play that animation according to the maximum and minimum height. Okay, for example, let me show you. If the player is in front of this, okay, then we will measure the height of this obstacle, and then according to this height, as you know that we have these parkour actions on which we have the minimum height and maximum height. So if this minimum height and maximum height matches this box height, then we will perform this jump up. Okay, and then if the minimum height and maximum height get equals to this, okay, then we will play a different type of parkour on this object. So that is the reason we did all of this. Okay, now as you know that right here on the animator, when the game will be playing, then the player will be inside this basic locomotions. Okay, so when the player is inside the basic locomotion and we want to perform the parkour action, then as you know that there is no link back to our base layer. Okay, so we want to create a link to our base layer in order to perform this jump up and high jump up, because in our basic locomotion we don't have the jump up and high jump up. It's right here on our base layer. So in order to get back to our base layer, we will create a variable by the name of animation state, and this will be equals to animator dot get next animator state info. Okay, and right here we will pass 0 since our animations are on the base layer, and as you know the base layer is our first layer. We don't have any layer which comes before the base layer, so that's why we use 0, because in programming our numbers start from 0 1 2 3. Okay, like that. So we will pass 0 right here, and if your animations are in some other layer, then you can pass a number according to that layer. Okay, for example, if our animation were inside this basic locomotion, then we will have to pass 1, but it is on the base layer, so we will simply pass 0. Okay, so this will basically play the animation. Now we also want to make sure that if the animation name which is inside our parkour action doesn't match the animation name right here, okay, then we want to debug a message in which we will say that the animation name is incorrect, because right now we don't have any option for that. So we will say that if the animation name dot is name, okay, if the animation name is not correct, okay, that what this sign means. Okay, it means if not. Okay, so if that is the case, then we will say debug dot log and we want to say that animation name is incorrect. You can type whatever message you want, but I will just leave this as it is. Now at the end, we want to wait for the whole parkour animation to finish, okay? So for that we will say yield return new, wait for seconds, and right here we will say animation state dot length, make the L right here small, and then after this we will set the player in action to false, because when the animation finishes and the parkour action finishes, now the player is not in any action, so we will set that to false. Now before testing this out, let's call this perform parkour action method in here. So as you know, it is of type enumerator, so in order to call enumerator type function, we need to type start coroutine, and then in here we will say perform parkour action, and as you know it needs action, so we will pass action in there, then semicolon at the end, and then we want to break the loop, because when we find any action, okay, and then we perform that action, then we want to break the loop, okay, because we don't want to check for other parkour animations then. So make sure that you break the for loop like this. Now before saving the script right here, change this from animation name to animation state actually, okay? And then in the state we will check for the animation name, okay? And if that is incorrect, then we will print this message. Now if you save the script, get back to Unity, click on player, make sure that you added these two parkour actions and you added the animator right there, okay? Everything is set up. Let's click on scene and let's play the game. So if we press the shift button, as you can see, I mean the space button, as you can see, we can now only see the raycast in the green color, as you can see, because we set that in our code that whenever we press the jump button, then we only want to perform the parkour. And as you can see now in front of us, we don't have any object on which we want to perform the parkour, so it is green. But now if we get in front of this and press the shift button, as you can see it is red, but we are not able to perform the parkour action, and this is due to the jump up minimum height and maximum height. So let's make this as 0.1 and 0.5, okay, and let's click on this jump up and let's change this from 0.5 to 1, okay, and these values might be different for you guys, so you can just change these values according to your own game, okay, because these values must be equals to the object heights, okay. So now if we press the button, as you can see now the player can perform the parkour action, okay. If we test it out again, as you can see the player is performing the parkour, and now if we try it on this one, as you can see the player is performing the parkour action. But if you notice, the player is not getting on top of this obstacle. This is because the player has the character controller, because if you notice right here, the character controller is stopping the player to go on top of the obstacle, because the character controller doesn't move up. As you can see, the character controller stays the same, only the player body perform the parkour action, as you can see, okay. So we actually don't want this. So in the next video we will fix this issue, but now as you know that our parkour actions are working perfectly fine. And guys, let me tell you that you can add even more parkour actions. Just simply create a new parkour action and download an animation for that parkour action. Okay, then drag and drop it right here, give it a name, type that name right here, add the minimum maximum height, and that will be it. Okay, then you will be able to perform that parkour as well, and you will not be needing to type any code for that because we already have all the code set up right here. Okay, we just now need to add a parkour action right here, and it will be played automatically according to the height values. And as I told you in the videos at the start that I am sick, so actually now I am getting headaches, so I will just end this video right here, and then we will continue our work from the upcoming videos.